I don't know how kids, I'm talking 17 and under, are getting guns. How are they buying them? Who's selling them? Once you figure that out and you put a stop to it, and you parents out there, y'all need to start tossing your kids' rooms, searching them, and if they have a gun, confiscate it. Especially if you want to keep them alive.
She says a young man she was raising in her home shot and killed her only son, 17-year-old Antonio Kindre Thornton. The deadly shooting happened Sunday night as three teens played video games on a PlayStation 4 in Kindre's room.
And all of a sudden, I heard a loud pop, and my mom yelled, "What's that noise I hear?"
Ms. Brown says the shooting was an accident. Atlanta police have charged the 16-year-old gunman with involuntary manslaughter and reckless conduct in the death of his friend. As her family surrounds her, Ms. Brown says she's most alarmed because she had no idea the teens, who are both water boys, had a 9mm in her house.
I wasn't even aware the gun was in.
According to police, the group tried to block in responding officers' patrol cars at one point. Police followed the group on Northside Drive, then riders attempted to block them in again, causing one rider to crash into one of the patrol cars. Police say that rider took off running.
Contracts with clauses for the artists that would enable the city to move the date of the Jazz Festival and not suffer any financial consequences. She was told to come back in a couple of weeks for more discussion. Reporting live from Northeast Atlanta,
and will forever be heroes. The suspect has been identified as David Lee Huber and was under investigation for child pornography possession. He barricaded himself in an apartment for several hours before opening fire with an assault rifle. Huber later killed himself.
A tragic story tonight.
We're only requiring photo ID for in-person voting and not absentee. Republicans at the time said the problem was not with absentee votes. It appears they've changed their minds now after these recent losses.
You're making a good point. I remember that. And I was one conservative and Republican who said, wait a minute, there's a lot of fraud in absentee ballots in all 50 states. And the Republicans overlooked that. But I'm going to ignore the cheap partisan shots by Theron and Kathy. The problem is, if you're intellectually honest, you will realize that, and the pandemic was part of it, that the system was simply overwhelmed last year and on January 5th with regard to the absentee ballots. It just couldn't be handled. You didn't have good signature verification. And Kathy, I'm sorry, but even the Secretary of State's office said there were 8,000 ballots. And he said this under oath. Ryan Germany, the general counsel for the SOS, said they had to send letters that you voted illegally. And I hope there's some prosecution. So the Republicans or anybody, Democrats, would have to tighten up on this if there's evidence of fraud. And so it's a baby step that the legislature has taken. I hope they take some other steps to undo the ruling last March that Secretary of State Raffensperger signed off on, caved in to Stacey Abrams. And finally, there is no evidence of suppression. I think that's the greatest myth that the left starts just publicizing. You can just see it from the numbers. More people are voting than ever.
Kathy, I'm sure you would say there's.
Just last week, it said Ted Cruz threatened to kill her. Now, that's absurd. Now, if you want to tie two censure resolutions there, that's crazy language from AOC. And so I think that this is too politicized. I think maybe the rhetoric could be calmed down. I wouldn't argue with that.
Kathy?
She's absolutely incendiary. I don't think anything is going to happen to her, but she is not doing the job she needs to do for her constituents. I wouldn't be surprised if she doesn't get to sit on committees. She's not going to be able to help get anything done because things are just not going to come her way. I hope people in the district are getting organized, whether a Democrat wins or a Republican wins. Let's get some adults in the room and, as Phil said, turn down the rhetoric.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Coming up, we'll have winners and losers.
Pulled out of the air with no justification.
And with just about a week to go until former President Trump's impeachment trial, Chris, we learned last night his entire legal team quit, all 5 attorneys, leaving his legal strategy unknown. Chris?
David Spott reporting from the White House. David, thank you. And joining us now, Jared Bernstein of the President's Council of Economic Advisors. Jared, the biggest complaint about the President's $1.9 trillion COVID rescue package is that it's just too big. I want to put some items up on the screen. You would give $1,400, a $1,400 check to someone who's making $75,000 a year and has kept his job. Hundreds of billions of dollars already approved by Congress haven't been spent yet. And there's money for things that have nothing to do with COVID, like $20 billion for mass transit and raising the minimum wage. Now, 10 Republican senators say they've come up with a compromise plan and have asked for a meeting with President Biden. First of all, your initial reaction to what those Republican senators are calling for. And secondly, is President Biden willing to come down from that $1.9 trillion price tag?
Thank you, Chris. Great to be with you. We just learned about this letter from the Republicans a few minutes ago. But the president has consistently said 3 things. 1, he is absolutely willing to negotiate. 2, and this speaks to your question, this plan is scaled to have the punch to finally put these dual crises behind us, to meet the challenge of vaccine distribution, of virus control, and of meeting the economic relief that's so urgent in this moment. The cost of inaction is extremely high. Part 3 is, as I mentioned, willing to negotiate with Republicans, and glad to hear from this letter that they're on board, but we need to learn a lot more about it. Right now, we're in a position where delay and inaction are the enemy.
Law enforcement, infrastructure, this is devastating.
The governor says that when the president signed that executive order, the workers on the Keystone Pipeline packed up their lunch pails and went home.
Look, we haven't had the Keystone Pipeline in place for a long time, and we certainly had, a very low unemployment rate before the crisis hit. The key to getting back to robust job opportunities is to cease any delay, any inaction, any failure to negotiate, any wait and see around this rescue plan, because this rescue plan is of a magnitude, and that's so important because you questioned the top line number, is of a magnitude to get us to the other side of this fiscal crisis so we can finally and reliably launch a robust economic recovery. Now, you don't get there without virus control. And key to the American Rescue Plan is not just virus control, but it's vaccine distribution. So if we take the steps that the president has outlined, we will begin to see the unemployment rate fall more quickly. As I said, one estimate gets us to full employment a year earlier. 4 million more jobs if we pass this plan against if we don't. So I think that in terms of job availability to robust labor demand and economic opportunity, the American Rescue Plan is precisely the right medicine.
Finally, and I want to switch subjects on you. We got about a minute left, Jared. There's been a...
If you look back 2 weeks ago, about 700 to 800,000 doses a day were being given out. Now we're up to 1.2 to 1.3 million doses a day. We have some forecasting over the next 3 weeks that we'll have more vaccine available, 16% more vaccine available in the next few weeks. So overall, I'm very encouraged by what I see. I see scientists now, they're promising 3 days a week press conference from CDC director and the NIH director and others involved. So I think what we're seeing is very encouraging.
One of the biggest issues, I think it's fair to say, is schools. And there are a number of school districts around the country.
Well, they got tired of hearing that constant squeal, the squeaky wheel, about the lack of vaccine in the state of Georgia. You're now getting another 250,000 doses per week. And the sooner the seniors can get vaccinated in Georgia, the sooner the teachers can get vaccinated. So it's a matter of time And those teachers are just going to have to be patient because it's just not available right now. It isn't. We need to get our vaccinations before they can. The sooner it happens, the sooner the teachers can get vaccinated.
Early infections back in December of 2019. Scientists initially suspected the virus came from wild animals sold in that market. The market has since been largely ruled out, but it could provide hints to how the virus spread so widely. As the U.S. reaches another grim milestone, mask mandate set to go into effect tomorrow night. The mandate is geared towards mass public transportation. Maura Siriani breaks down the new set of rules for us. If you've recently traveled by plane, taken an Uber, or even MARTA, wearing a mask on public transportation is nothing new to you. The only difference now is if you refuse to wear a mask, you'll be violating federal law. Under new CDC rules beginning Monday night, mask wearing will be required on planes, boats, trains, and buses. The mandate also covers subways, taxis, rideshare vehicles, and ferries. It's required for operators and workers, too.
For God's sake, wear a mask if not for yourself, for your loved ones, for your country.
The CDC directive follows an order from President Biden on January 21st, the day after his inauguration, directing agencies to immediately take action. It also comes as health experts uncover new and more contagious COVID variants.
I understand and acknowledge that anxiety that people are feeling. The good news is the measures that we've been recommending this whole time will help us to limit transmission of these new variants.
Well, they got tired of hearing that constant squeal, the squeaky wheel, about the lack of vaccine in the state of Georgia. You're now getting another 250,000 doses per week. And the sooner the seniors can get vaccinated in Georgia, the sooner the teachers can get vaccinated. So it's a matter of time. And those teachers are just going to have to be patient because it's just not available right now. It isn't. We need to get our vaccinations before they can. The sooner it happens, the sooner the teachers can get vaccinated. State Chevron makes a claim of unsubstantiated claim that there's voter suppression by wanting people to make a copy of their ID. It's suppressing the vote. Well, if they're too lazy or too cheap to go and get a copy of their ID made, they can vote in person. And when you vote in person, you got to show your identification anyway. So, if it's good for one, it's good for the other. I know no one believed me when I said there was going to be a mask mandate nationwide. Guess what? I saw this last October, November.
Yes, sir. Ma'am, sir, whatever.
I got a question for you knotheads. Does anybody know why I'm here?
Just our luck.
My, what have we here? It's a comedian. Maybe the class will remember how funny you are when they're out running 5 miles in full gear this afternoon.
That's not fair.
Did you say something? Did words somehow escape your face and come flying out into the air where I could hear them?
No, sir, I'm sorry.
valuable commodity your DNA can be. As you'll hear when we come back, some of the fastest growing U.S. tech companies are in this space as well. In fact, you may have already surrendered your DNA by spitting in a tube.
Hold Atlanta's annual jazz festival for Memorial Day weekend, but some Atlanta City Council members aren't on board with that idea because of the ongoing coronavirus pandemic. The pandemic forced city officials to cancel the festival last year. And Governor Brian Kemp says more than 1 million Georgians have received the COVID-19 vaccine. The governor making that announcement this morning at a news conference. According to the Georgia Department of Public Health, the state has seen more than 759,000 confirmed COVID-19 cases since the pandemic began. State health officials reported 3,800 new cases in the past 24 hours. As more vaccines
Pretty dumbass place to leave a scooter, don't you think? B.O. Ride, come get your junk. It's on private property.